Few news stories. We don't start for 10 minutes, but I saw some interesting stories. Um, there's this UFO nonsense that keeps on coming back over and over again. I remember a few years ago I was personally able to block a bunch of UFO talks at DEF CON, but this just keeps happening. And now the ex-UFO chief in the Pentagon has come out to say what I think anybody with any sense knew all along, is that this is just lunatics with conspiracy theories driving spending, and this keeps on happening. There was a big deal over the last several decades of all the way back to World War II of the Germans using magic and the Russians using psychic attacks and stuff, and the Pentagon keeps wasting money on this garbage. So anyway, not much to do about that nonsense. This one is perhaps very interesting. I'd like to learn more about it. Google is going to have AI reading your private messages. Now, I don't really understand what private messages there are on Google. Maybe if you use Google Chat, this would matter. I don't. The only thing I use Google for is email. I guess there's a chat box that used to pop up that I somehow got rid of and never thought of again. And I guess it might have private messages, but now they're going to analyze your private messages. And that might mean they'll expose your private messages. If they train an AI model on your private messages, then it might leak that data out. But I would imagine what they're probably going to do is use AI to summarize the private message to target ads, and that may not be such an invasion of privacy, but certainly it would be nice to know what they're doing with your private messages. Let's see, held a message smart detection. Okay, there's a message from something called Automod. I have no idea what that is. Held a message for reason smart detection. They're probably trying to warn me that some Forbes, it's probably trying to tell me that some Forbes link here is malware. 26 billion records leak. Oh yeah, I think I saw this one. This, I think, is just another amalgamation of previous dumps, as I remember. But it's, yep, there's always these dumps. And they're useful for password crackers. All right, and anyway, so Google is bringing Bard to messages, and it'll be interesting to see what comes of that. So the red states like Texas want to legalize individual homeowners killing the homeless people on their property to get them off, using lethal force against them, and the Supreme Court seems to be in favor of that. As you know, they've taken the hard right turn. So they're talking about this. They want to criminalize homelessness and make it legal to shoot homeless people that stay on your property and won't leave. So we'll see what comes of that, but I wouldn't be surprised. It's not that different than what they're doing to asylum seekers in Texas. And we can look forward to another couple decades of this in America now that we got 6 right-wingers on the Supreme Court. And so this is something Google has done over and over. Google keeps on missing the boat. And one of the big about 10 years ago, Google figured out that a ton of useful information was in Twitter and in Facebook. And they can't index it because it's owned by another company. So they declared that we must become a top social network in order to get people doing social networking on Google servers. And so they had 3 projects in a row within a year that were appalling disasters, leading to class action lawsuits and scandals as they ruled out Google Wave, Google Buzz, and Google Circles or Hangouts or something, all of which were complete failures. And they just couldn't do it. And here they've done it again. They missed the boat on AI. Google actually had AI years ago, but they didn't roll it out because they were worried about its inaccuracy and the way it would compete with their existing search product. And then OpenAI rolled it out, and Microsoft jumped on the bandwagon, and now Google's embarrassed and they're trying to rush out, and they're behind. And so there's memos leaking out showing basically they're freaking out. This tends to happen when a company misses the boat. Steve Ballmer did this at Microsoft. Microsoft did not move onto cell phones or portable devices. They stayed with these heavy desktop computers when Apple put out iPhone and it became a huge hit, and then they had a huge freak out with him throwing chairs and everything, freaking out that they had to move onto mobile devices, which they didn't really succeed for a long time in doing. They still haven't made it onto phones in a practical way. And so anyway, Microsoft is now the industry leader on top, setting the standard, and the other companies are all scrambling to push out some product to say they're competing, and largely being a mile behind OpenAI. OpenAI is just the leader, and everybody else is trying to conceal their failures. This I'm sort of glad to see this. They finally caught a teenager that did all these swatting attacks. Now they've swatted everybody. They swatted members of Congress. They swatted the judge in the in one of the Donald Trump cases. They just swatted everybody, and it turns out to be just one teenager. One teenager did it hundreds of times using the handled Tor swats and just swatted everybody all over the place, so they caught him. It really is a serious crime, and you can get people killed that way. Swatting is where you just call the police with a fake bomb threat or hostage threat or something, so they'll send a bunch of police cars, armed police, to go to somebody's house, and then sometimes they get confused and get shot. But in any case, it's very upsetting to the people in the house. This, I learned, I think from him, I found out a lot of my students are saying they can't do their projects, and I found out Microsoft has a new way to ruin our lives. There's something called S-Mode. If you buy a new Windows machine now with Home Edition, it will ship in something called S-Mode, which is treating it like an iPad. Now, if you have an iPad or an iPhone, you can only install apps from the official store. You cannot load them from any other source, and Microsoft has now enforced this. So that's why they can't get anything done. They can't install Wireshark or VMware or any other tools on the product, on the thing, until you get out of S-Mode, and they try to scare you into not getting out of S-Mode. It is difficult to turn off S-Mode. It is irreversible, and a message will pop up saying this may compromise the security and performance of your device, trying to convince you not to do it. Now, this shows the kind of schizophrenic stuff security people have always had. Security people have always felt like if you could just stop people from using the computer, then they wouldn't get infected with malware and stuff. And so putting more and more restrictions, you don't have administrator rights, you can't do this, you can't do that, is what they'd like to do. But, most people who buy a computer would like to actually use it. I mean, if you wanted a Chromebook, then you could get that if all you're going to use is web searches and not. But anyway, so it is an issue, and this, I think, is explained why a lot of students tell me they can't get any of their homework done, and I'm beginning to see this is one problem. If you have a fairly new computer, you may have to turn off this S-Mode to get anything done. And I can help you if you share your screen in the after the lecture. Anyway, so WMIC is going away. WMIC is actually pretty important for incident response. WMIC is the command line tool that lets you interrogate a lot of settings and control a lot of settings in Microsoft. It's very commonly used to script queries and such to find out the state of the machine, but it seems to be, they're taking it away. So I imagine you can probably replace it all with PowerShell commands, but I don't really know. And got a couple more minutes. Let me see if there's anything else exciting here. There's documentations to install VMware on Apple Silicon. To install Kali on Apple Silicon, which turned out to be more difficult than I expected. And I thought this was pretty funny. The Indian National Identity app has leaked out all the data, and this is one of the projects in the 128 class. It's hacking into the Indian Identity app. It's got security weaknesses, and I've been exploiting it for homework for years. Although what we're doing doesn't steal the data from the server, which apparently leaked it all. But and this one I mentioned before, but it's of great. There's going to be an operational technology security class starting a week from today, a non-official class, but because I've got a consulting job where I'm helping companies secure industrial infrastructure. And this is the story of why it's so important. This is a first, I think, since Stuxnet. This is the most serious destruction, physical destruction. So the Iranians hacked a steel mill in, the Israelis hacked a steel mill in Iran, and they managed to cause it to dump out the molten steel and set fire to the place and burn it down with a cyber attack. So this, I think, helps motivate people to understand how dangerous it is to have computer-controlled industrial equipment that is not secured against internet attacks, and that is very much the case everywhere. So it's a thing to be aware of. So that course is OT, and it's going to start in February 3. It's no college credit, but I'm just setting up because I'm going to need it for my consulting and protect critical infrastructure. All right, let me stop this recording.